tomorrow and other years. And for today's, probably the last one should be the way that we managing about the customer. The information is not much. I think I can finish in the first part, and the second part we have two small case study, but very small. But we're gonna let you to read in class, and we can discuss a little bit. It's very easy and very smooth. But actually, as you may know that one important information that is very important for the supply chain management is about managing about the customer. So we need to understand how can we respond and make the customer be happy, right? And just not justify just our product and service, but normally we would like to have like the royalties from them. Right. So today we're gonna go for the focusing on the customer. Okay. So the key idea is that why we need to certify and treat for the need and the one customer, because actually we might say that okay, for in one organization we might be the supplier for another organization, and at the same time we're gonna be the customer for another organization as well. So we in the supply chain management, the organization is normally is like between supplier and the customer. So the customer is one thing that very directly linked to the organizations, right? So in order to getting the benefit to the customer, and also having like the performance excellence for the companies, we need to understand what the customer want, right? We understand the customer want and the customer need because we would like to use that information to make the design of our product and service, right? And also the process is not just okay, we know that what they want, and then we just build the product and service, and that is there's no way, because we're gonna have like the concept of improvements. We still need some feedback from them. We also provide feedback to the supplier as well. Okay, so it's just the link between organization, supplier, and the customer. And one important information is about customer want, right? What's the customer expect? We need to specify. And once we have the way that we are using the information to design our product and service provide to the customer, then we still have the result of the gap between what they want and what they actually get, right? And that gap we're gonna try to improve, just like the said last week, that we can use the gap in the process to improve in the customer one as well, right? In order to satisfy the customer, we still need to find the gap and fulfill that gap in order to make them more happy. So as I mentioned at the beginning, that actually we want the loyalties, not the satisfaction. This is because the satisfaction is an attitude, while loyalty is behavior. So what the difference between satisfaction and attitude? Loyalty, satisfaction and loyalty. Loyalty is a bigger term, right? Because for the satisfaction, right? If the customer satisfied our product and service, what next, right? In some situation, right? In some reasons, for example, based on the environment, based on the convenience, or based on the promotions, the customer might buy, right, or use the product and service from our competitor, even though they're satisfied with our product and service. So this is the satisfaction. They're satisfied, but it doesn't guarantee that they're gonna always use or buy the product and service from us. But the loyalty is bigger than that, bigger than that, because it's just behavior that okay, the customer for sure that they try to find and use the product and service from us, right? No way that they can use from our competitors, right? But in order to getting the loyalty from the customer, you need to build the satisfaction first. Okay, they have like the information, for example, satisfactions. For the customer retention rate, right? Generally, this is a report from the US. Generally, around if you can retain the customer for your organization compared between 98% and 94%, but you can make the process twice. Right? And also, generally, the customer, right, who certifies will try to tell others, right, and the company that getting the customers certified with their product and service can have the ability to getting twice of their profitability as well. But at the same time, right, for dissatisfied, right, is on the bad, it's in the bad direction, by the bad way. For sure, we all know that the customer who are unhappy, normally they want to talk, right, want to tell others, right, more than tell about the good things, right. People love to chit chat, love to gossip, love to tell about the bad things more than the good thing. So in the other words, if you cannot certify, right, the customers, so they might tell others about the bad thing of your product. So, well, anyways, you can see that the loyal customers spend more and more, and they are willing to pay a higher price, or even though that we provide the price, right, for our products more than the competitor. But if that customer be a loyal customer, they are willing to pay, right? And for sure that this is a fact that when you try to retain, right, or the old customer, this means that the company or organization pay less cost to do the business, more than finding the new customer. So if you try to find a new customer, you pay more cost than you retain the old customer. This is a fact. So that's why the need in the one customer is quite important, right? And again, the cost is 5 times, right? Right. If you compare the cost between keep existing one to happy and finding the new one of the customer, they pay more, right? 5 times company generally. So keep the existing one be happy is the better way, right? But anyway, as I mentioned, we need to create the satisfaction to the customer before we getting the royalty from them. And another thing is that the what the customer wants and needs also provide the value information to planning for the strategy of the organization, and also this also provide, right, as the information that help the company that have the competitiveness when you compare or compete with others organization, right? So we can see that based on statistics, it shows that the growth of the market share is quite strongly related to the customer satisfaction. So this is why this is very important. And American Customer Satisfaction Index. This is another key index that used to explain or models the customer satisfaction. If you look at this model, right, ACSI model, American Customer Satisfaction Index, you can see it shows about the link of the customer satisfaction, right, to customer complaint and customer loyalty, and also in order to have the customer satisfaction, it means that you have the information from the perceived qualities, perceived value, and customer expectation. So all of these, right, link to the customer satisfaction, and from customer satisfaction provide to the two things that would be the customer complaint and customer loyalty. So what are these here? So at first, normally customers have their expectation, right? But their expectation about the product and service from your organization, and they also compares, right, about what they get with the price, right? So the values, perceived values mean you talk about the qualities of the product or service, right, against price. If the best value or the better value is mean that with the same price to have the more or better performance or more better qualities of the products. So this is a perceived value. And for the perceived qualities mean what they actually get compared to the what they expect. Right? So all of these, right, are linked to the customer satisfaction. Right? Because expectation for sure is directly related to the customer satisfaction, and why the perceived value is directly related to the customer satisfaction, because if you provide the same, right, qualities as your competitors, but your competitors have the lower price, what happens? So the customer prefer, right, the one that have the same quality but the lowest, right, the low price, right. So that's why they might certify on the company that have the better value, right. In the case of within the same price, they're getting more qualities or more performance of the product and service. And for the perceived quality as well, since the perceived quality is about the difference or the comparisons between what the customer expect and what the actual output or actual quality that the customer get. But if you have the perceived qualities like the actual output is very close or exceeds the customer expectation, so customer gonna have more satisfied, right? But on the other hand, if your actual quality or actual output that you provide to the customer is below, right, when you compare to the customer expectation, in this case, the customer gonna have dissatisfied, right? And based on the customer satisfaction, right, we can have two ways, right? Because dissatisfied or less satisfaction can lead to the customer complaint. And on the other hand, if you have more and more satisfaction, this can improve and become to be the customer loyalties, right? So that's why this model try to, show about the links of these customer satisfactions into two ways, right? The first way is come from the perceived quality, perceived value, and expectation, and the second way is about their move forward, right, to the link of customer complaint and customer loyalties. So in order to explain more, you can see here is about the model to show you, right, that generally customer have the need and expectation. So that's why we call expected qualities. And then based on that expected qualities, the organization need to identify the needs and then translate into the service and product specification. We call the design qualities. And after their design, right, then they produce or provide a service, right, that we call like the actual output or actual qualities that the customer can receive. Then the customer is gonna, compare between the expectation of them to your product and service and the actual quality from your product and service. So then we can have the perceived qualities that if we have like the very narrow gap is good things, because it means that your actual quality and the expected qualities work quite closely. But we also prefer, right, that actual qualities are close or beyond the expected quality. But if the actual quality is very low, right, or below the expected qualities, so the perceived quality is going to show that they have a lot of gap, and that can lead to the customer that's unsatisfied with your product and service. But anyway, in every step, right, of the model here, that transform the need and the want of the customer to the last one, to the customer perception. We also need the feedback and measurements of this step. But you can see that based on this, right? So the company that can, narrow the gap, this means that they can have a better chance to have the customer satisfaction. And generally, most of the organization or most of the company, they try to focus more on the processes and the internal perspective. So it means that they are lack of taking the perspective from the external customers such as the consumer or the external customer. So in this case, what that means is that sometimes the company pay attention too much on their internal. They try to improve the process. They try to make the better way to do that, to do this, and keep the good result from the measurement and all the things. But it's just the information from just one direction, right? They try to make the forecasting and make the good thing just internal perspective. But at the same time, we still need the external information from the external customer aspect. Because it doesn't guarantee that what you think that is gonna good for the customer is gonna be the real things that the customer want actually. So then you need to rather or get the information from the external customer as well. And the next one I'm gonna show you how the leading company their success with their customer focus. Okay, we have around 6 or 7 bullet point that show that this is the things that they do, right? And then there's kind of success. The first one is to define and segment the customer group and market. So just like I believe you study marketing already, right?
Yeah.
So just like your marketing strategies, right? The first thing that you need to do is about the segmentation. So same customer focusing on the customer as well. We need to segment the customer. Why do we need to segment the customer? This is because the customer have several needs, right? That different needs, right? And sometimes it's based on their behavior, sometimes based on their demographic, based on their geographics, right? So you need to segment, right, the customer in order to provide the better, right, solution for them, because each group might have the different need and different wants. So this is the best way to do, because you cannot take as a mass, right? So provide just everything the same for each group of the customer. There's no way difference, right? So we have the difference. So that's why in the same product, so that's why we have the different class or different sub-segment for each customer. Just like that, okay, your friend work in real estate, right? The real estate, they have like a different segmentation. So based on, maybe you can think about the demographic, or just for example about the income or the customer, or might be the geographic, because you might, if you want to build the condominium and you target group about the foreigners or the Japanese people or something, so you might think about building condominium around the Sukhumvit Road or something. But if you have another focusing group, such like the low income or the student, right, or the undergrad student who are moved to Bangkok to study their bachelor degree, so this might be have the low price for that condominium as well. So it depends, right? So the first thing that they do is about the segmentation. It's very simple. And the second one is about to understand VOCs come from why the customer. Right? So there's several ways that you can get why the customer. So we're going to talk in the later slide. But you need to understand the why the customer. For example, you can getting why the customer from the complaints, customer complaints. What the customer complained a lot, so you might think this is a valuable information for you. Another thing is you might see that they have the several method to collect the information from the customer, right? About using the surveys, questionnaires, or you might to observe, or you might talk with the customer, right? But you need to use that information and understand, right? This is what customers provide for you. And the third one is that once you understand and have the why the customer, the next thing is that you need to link that why the customer into your design or production or delivery process. For example, it's quite very simple. In some supermarket, right, in other countries, right, they might provide the products based on the weathers, right? So for example, if you have the very hot weathers, you might provide the cold noodles, something like that. And it depends on the seasonal, right? So you need to think, okay, what the customer prefer based on that weathers. Or sometimes you buy the vegetable, let's say the broccoli or the carrot, or you might have some part that you don't want, right? The supermarket also provide the scissors for the customer, right? That they can use to cut off the thing that they want, right? Before they buy, and something like that. So it's very simple that we need to take care of and think every point that can satisfy the customer and use in the design process or production process and delivers. Right? For example, delivery process. So who knows that for nowadays, last mile deliveries, you see. So in the past, in Thailand, especially in the past 10 or 5 years ago, we know about delivery just Pizza Hut, the pizza company, KFC, something like that you just call, right? 11:12 or 11:50, and then you order, and then they deliver to you. And that the delivery process is come from the vehicle belong to that restaurant. But right now, right, when you make an order, so if you want to have some food from the very well-known restaurant, you just using the application, right? Grab Food or Lineman's or Panda Foods, and then they gonna provide everything for you, right? And even though you can monitor on the application, right, see it is where you're stuck right now, right, that you make an order. So this is like the I wanted to think that to show that this is the one of the information that very important as a need of the customer, right? Because if you make an order online, right, and what would be the information that you want to know? So how long it's going to take, right? If you call pizza and they said, okay, within 45 minutes we can deliver the pizza to you. So you have a trigger just 45 minutes, right? But sometimes it doesn't 45 sharply or it's might be late, right? But if you have the application, it shows on the map that its drivers now is at the restaurant, now pick up your orders, now it's on the way, and you see the graphic, right? This is 10 minutes, 5 minutes to you. Okay? So it's just like the one thing that is important for the customer. Right? So you need to use that, right, to design just like this for the application. Design the application of the delivery food to the customer, and then you need to build a relationship, right, through the commitment and that provide accessibility to the people and the information and follow up the transaction. So on the other word, it means that it should have the accessibility that very easy to the customer to contact you or communicate with you. Right? Sometimes you have the problems, right? But the customer have the difficulty to contact you. It's not a good way to do that for manage the customer or for retain the customer. Right, so that's we can see that every let's link to the application. If you have problem, they have the option for call the drivers, right? Call. If you have to use the Uber, right, or the Grab, that, right? So it's not 100% that they're gonna advise exactly to your place, right? So sometimes you need to provide them a little bit more information, right? So you just push buttons to call them, something like that. So keep the relationship, accessibility is easier for the customer to contact you, and also the service, right? After sales service or the providing the service, right, to the customer, keep and help them. Right? So this is another way that they're doing good, right, for the leading company. Right? And the fourth one is about. The fifth one is about develop the effective complaints management processes. Right? So we all know that when you have the customer complaint, what you're gonna do, right? As I talked with you from the last previous course, if you have the customer complaint for Thai people, the first thing that you might think that okay, we need to say sorry, right? And then what? So customer complaint is mean that the good way is that you need to dealing with this complaint, you need to respond in the first half, right? And makes it easier to the customer to make the complaints, right? And also it would be better if you collect all the information at the database so that you can prevent the mistake again. It's going to happen again in the future, or something like that, right? So you need to develop, right, the process to handle the customer complaint, right? So you might say that. So that's why sometimes when you contact with the call center of the customer service. I don't know that you feel just like me or not, but normally I feel that some people who are doing this job, they're really calm, even though we are still mad. But you know, so this is the thing that I think that I have it, right. Sometimes I'm really mad about the service, right. So in Thailand, what kind of service that you usually have that mistake or error about internet, let's say. So and very sad that in Thailand you have just a few providers, right? I have the bad experience with the home internet, right? Home, right? Using the fibers, the glass connection. First, I'm using True, right? Use True and very mad about their service. Then I'm changed to AIS, right? And very happy because AIS at that time they provide with the AIS box that you can watching movie as well. But and after that I have the problem with the AIS fiber as well. And you know what? Sometimes you're using that service, and sometimes you're watching a game. You know that. And let's say you watch soccer or you watch a movie that's very critical on that time, and you have the problem with the internet. But this is for the entertainment, okay? Not talking about the work. Right? So for sure, sometimes you send the email when it's in the process and you have the internet is dying. But I'm calling right through the customer service and man with them, right? And you know, and because my student is one of the management team of AIS, right? But because you know, I was also post on my Facebook, right? Right, to talk about this issue, right? And then just a minute, then just call me.
We have a new one now.
We
have a new one. Okay.
And just calm, right? And call me and contact me. So just like the way that you need to finding the way to manage the complaint of the customer, right? And the last one is that if you just doing but you are not measuring, so you cannot know that this you are doing good or bad, or you can do it better or not. So just try to have the measurements process to measure about the customer satisfaction in order to know about the way to improve in the future, or know that okay, this is good way that we already did, right? So this is like the idea from the leading practice, right? That organization that's very success of the focusing in the for the customer management. What did they do, right? And also for sure that we talk about the customer. You need to know about the customer group. Yes, generally people might think that when you talk about the customer, you might think about the one that who purchase your product or use your service. Yes, that is the customer, but we call it consumer, right? So actually, if you talk in the organization level, right, you're gonna have the consumer. Consumer is the one that directly purchase your product. But you can also have the external customer, who is this. Let's say that you are the manufacturing companies, right? That you produce some product provided to the customer, but you deliver your product to the retail, right? Retail business and retail customer gonna buy your product from the retail business. Right? That's you deliver product to the Walmart or Lotus or Home Pro, let's say, and the customer gonna come buy your products from that retail. So that retail is external customer. Right? But the customer who buy the product from that customer, that external customer is called consumer. Right? So this is an organization level, and also we're gonna have like the societies, right? We're not stay alone, right? Okay, we can see that if your business have the problem with the communities, if you have the problem with society, so we're gonna have the problem with your business, right? Because we cannot stand alone, right? So sometimes, right, we need to, we need to give and take, right? So things like the customer is also with the communities as well, and also your employees, right? And for the process levels, right? In the process level, you might think about the department, the unit, or the group, right? Or within your organization. And performer level is just go to the individuals, right? But anyway, for the internal customers, right? It's quite have the several aspects, right? Because it's maybe your teams or the next process members or the next departments. So you need to identify, right? Because we also have some example, right, from the leading company that they said that in order to satisfy external customer, you need to satisfy internal customer first, right? So then, so who are your internal customers, right? Right. So you need to answer the questions, right? Who use this product and service, who do the employees call and so on and so on. But anyway, the AT&T companies, right, also provide a model that can help to express that what is your how can you identify customer, right, both internal and externals, right? And they're using like this model, right? The model just like the one that I just mentioned for today class at the beginning. That they show about the links between your supplier and your customer. Okay, suppliers provide the input, right, as a part of the raw material to your company, and then you have the operations. You make the production, let's say, and you finish. You deliver your output of your process to your customer, right? So if you look just only forward, you can say that you are the customer of your supplier, right? But this model also said that it doesn't mean that the suppliers are gonna have you as a customer, but actually suppliers can be your customer as well. Because if you look in the backward, you are the one that provide the feedback and requirements or the information to the supplier. So in this case, in the point of view on the backward, the suppliers can be your customer as well. Okay, so in this case, right, you can see that this model tell that you are not just only the customer. At the same time, you will be the supplier, also be the customer as well. And also for the links of customer and suppliers, we call that a change, right? Because if you still remember that when we talk about supply chains, we mean about several organizations that link together. Because supply chain is you need to have more than one organization. Based on this model as well, it refers to the building up of the chain, right, of the customer, right, throughout the organization, right. So every connections, right, is show about how is your strengths between the organization and provide as a value chain. So if you have the very strong, right, link between each organization, you have the very strong value chain or strong supply chain, right? So what does it mean? It means that you need to provide the feedback as well, right? So you need to look at two-way communication here, right? It doesn't mean that strong chain is mean just forward, but also backward. So that's why that's gonna make the supply chain very strong. That on the backward, you still need to provide the information, provide the feedback. Okay? And we talk about the first one of the leading practice that they do in order to achieve what the customer management or customer focus. We said about the customer segmentation. So this slide just lists about the just main factor that you can consider to use to make a segmentation. Right? For example, demographics. Pretty sure for demographic, right? You can segment customer based on demographic, geographies based on the location, the volumes, right? So it depends on your business, right? So you can segment the customer based on the volume. For example, in the manufacturing companies, right? Sometimes they segment their customer based on the volumes, right? Based on the orders, based on the capacities, and the profit potential as well is depend on the size, right, of the organization. And one thing that you need to think about to use as the criteria to make the segmentation is about behavior of the customer as well. So let's say that I believe that probably next year you're going to do that your independent study or IS, right? So one information that you need to do when you're going to do the IS is about collect the primary data, right? And no matter what you do, like business plan or strategic plan, or even though the research, right? When you try to collect the primary data, right? You need to make sure that you provide, right, the questionnaire or just spread out the questionnaire to that target group. Right? But sometimes we see a lot that students just post or email to their friends or post on the personal Facebook and said, okay, hello friends, please help me because I want to graduate very soon. Please help me to fill in this form or something like that. But you need to. So our Ajahn know that let's say that in your plan you tell your target group. So when you send the questionnaire, you should send your target group to do, right? Not just don't care whoever just help me to fill in the form, right? Internet, right? So be careful about this. So this is just the one example, right? So why you need to segment, right? So because you want to get the information from that target group, right? So please consider this way, right? So the segmentation allows the company to prioritize the customer group, right? And so you can know that what or which is a criteria or the factor that you're gonna do or certify customer for each group, right? That maybe the requirement is different, and so you at least know that what will be the factor that you need to do for that customer or for that group of their segmentation. Okay, and after you do the segmentation, so another thing is that this is like the key dimensions, right, that you can consider to use as the criteria, right, that the customer gonna certifies, right, with your product and service. In this case, it's for your products. Normally, it's for the manufacturing things. You can think in terms of performance, future, reliability, conformance, durabilities, assessing and suitabilities. We already talked about this in the quality management already, but this is just a list of key dimension, quality dimension, especially for the manufacturing that the customer gonna used as the criteria to make the decision that they're gonna satisfy or unsatisfy with your products, right? For example, you can see about your serviceabilities, right, and durability. This is very common that we already know that this is the one of the characteristic or the criteria that the customer gonna use for make the decision. But how about for the service? For the service is also you can think about the empathies. You can think about the responsiveness. You can think about the tangible things like this, like the facilities or physical or the cleanliness, something like that. So this is like the key dimension, right, that they're going to consider to certify or uncertify with your survey. Okay. But if you still remember that we also talk about this thing as well when we study the operation management in the chapter of product and service design. The Kanos, the guru from Japan's country. This is a Japanese guru that they have the model for the customer need. Right? They classify right into three things, right? Satisfier, and exciter or delighter. So if you can have the characteristic of your product and service, right, to be the exciters, right? So it means that you're gonna, really success for satisfy your customer, because this means that you provide an unexpected feature to your customer. If you just satisfy, have the characteristic of your product and service, just the satisfier level. So it means that you just meet the requirement or minimum requirement from the customer. And for sure that if you have this satisfier, so you provide characteristic of your product and service below what the customer expects or below the requirements. And don't forget that from time to time, all these things going to change, right? The exciter or delighters, when the time move on, this might change to satisfier. And satisfiers, when the time move on, this might change to dissatisfier. This is the fact. So it means that in order to respond to the need and the want of the customer, you need to try to find unexpected feature from the customer to your product and service. Always try to find that. But just like if you stop, right? If you not try to try to find the unexpected need from the customer, right? From exciter it's going to become satisfier. From satisfier it's going to become dissatisfier. So it means that this is like the not the good way that we're gonna have this. And one information that we need in order to have it to improve our product and service is to acquire the information from the customer. And okay, we have the different method, right, that we can listen to the customers, getting information from the customers. Okay, comments cards and a formal survey. This is very simple. This is the first one that we can get. And one thing that we can see, the formal survey is you try to deliver the survey's form and let the customer to fill in, right? And then you can collect the information. But again, the problem of the survey form is that sometimes the customer doesn't, answer what they actually think, right? So sometimes they just want to finish, and that's it. So just like your questionnaire as well. Sometimes you post on Facebook, please tell me, my friends. So they just fill in, right? And sometimes it's not the thing that they consider to do, actually think. So maybe that can help things. So just like when you have the Likert scale from 1 to 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 is the best one, 1 is the bad one. So normally, what we're gonna do when you fill in 3, 4, 5, right? Maybe 4 look better, right? Especially for Thai people, right? 3 is that's 5 maybe is look over. So okay, 4 is my suitable that have 4. So whatsoever. But this is another way is that we can collect information from the customer using the survey or the comment card. You might see that, for example, very simple. When you go to the restaurant, right, on the table, they can have like a card and provide you with a pen or the pencil and ask you to write down the comments, right, and give to them in the box. They're gonna have the box that accept about all the comments card. And also the focus group, right? You might do the focus group that you have the group of the customer or non-customer or people who related to your product and service, and you can ask a question to them directly, right? Discussion, collect all the information, so you can get the deep information from them, right? And the customer contact, right? In this case, it maybe come from the the management that go directly to talk with the customer, right? And field intelligence is quite the same, but different person, because field intelligence you might have your salesperson, right, that gather information because they are very close to your customer, so then they can ask, they can collect the information from the customer, right? And complaint analysis, against we can collect the information from what customer often complain to your product and service. So that would be the weak point or the problem that you might consider, right? And another way that's very in trend so far is about the internet monitoring, right? But yes, especially you can have like the chatbot, right? You have like just like the Pantit.com. You see that you have the different room, right? That the customer come to discuss, and several times that we see that the company have monitors, right? What happened, and sometimes they try to protect the company by have the administrative or the webmaster to come to answer the questions, like that. But internet monitoring is another way to collect information from the customer, okay? And just collect is not that enough, because sometimes the data that you have or the information that you have made are not organized yet, right? So normally once you collect the informations, right? Okay, we need to know what the customer need and expectation. It would be better if you can have that information and you can using a tool, right, to organize and getting more deeper or more detail that hide that information. For example, the tool that very useful. The first one is affinity diagram, right? This is just the way that you try to or sometimes you have the several idea and you are not organized the idea that's close together, right? So we then using this tool by let the idea or the information that very similar or close together in the same group, and then you rename the group, right? So then you can have like the way to see on the big picture to what aspect that you're gonna go to use that information, because they have the several topic already that you collecting all of them and setting up the new name. So if you don't do this, then you're just using all the information, the raw information that you have. Sometimes we cannot see more information because they have a lot of information, but we are not grouping yet, right? So Affinity Diagram can help you to grouping the idea that's go together and rename the group, so that you can see about each aspect of that information. 3D scan is just quite the same. That sometimes what the topic that you interest, you can using the 3D scan to spread out the ideas. Okay, how can you respond to that problem, right? For example, if you're doing like a business like a restaurant, you might want to have the good restaurant that very success. So the 3 you can have, okay, customer satisfied with your restaurant. So then you can, break into the how can you make the customer satisfied with your restaurant. So you can think about it, okay, we need to provide with the good parking space, or you need to have the very good food, or you have the better service, something like that. So this is like the way that we're using the 3 diagram. The same thing, once you get the information, sometimes you can use the 3 diagram to find the solution. How can you respond to the need and want of the customer, right? So by the brain into the next level and the next level, just like, okay, the customer happy with your restaurant, good food, good service, good parking space. How can we have a good food? You can break into the next level. If you want to have a good food, you can have the good material. Let's say have the better chef and have the very unique menu or something like that. So you can break down into the next level. So then it's very useful when you have the information from the customer, what the customer needs, and you use this at the starting, and then you try to find a way to respond and solve for that problem, right? So just use the customer information, link it to the process of design, production, as I mentioned before, and also don't forget that the employees also play an important role, right? Because the one from the organization that directly contact to the customer is our employees. So you need to empower them, but to listen and take the appropriate action to meet the customer need, right? So you just empower them to have the right to make the decision, right? In order to provide a service and a product to the customer, right? So just have to let them to have the right to use their decision, empower them, right? We are not just only the management to do that, right? So we need our employees as well. So we need to empower them, right, to do these jobs, right, to take the appropriate action to meet the customer need, right? So the key idea is that you can see the organization can build the customer loyalty by developing the trust, communicating with the customer, effectively managing the interaction and relationship with the customer through the process. And its people, company must carefully select the customer contact employees, train them well, employment them, and to meet and exceed the customer expectation. So the detail show that, okay, we need someone who are contact, right, that customer, right, and take care of the customer, right, and we need to train them as well and empower them, right. And one concept is, again, we talk about this so many times, that we can use in order to think about the critical moment that our employees or our product and service that they're going to contact with the customer and make the customer make the decision that they're going to certify or uncertify, right? It's about using the concept of moment of truth. This is, for example, an example of list of the moment of truth in the airlines business. So what kind of critical moment that you're going to certify or uncertify with the service of the airline? So you might start with the reservations, purchasing ticket, checking your baggage, boarding flights, or request for the magazines when you stay in the plane, something like that. So just, you need to know that what are your critical moments that your employees or your organization that's going to contact with the customer, and the customer going to make the decision that they're going to happy or unhappy with your service. This is a critical moment on that things, for example, in the airline. And then if one we know about the critical moment, then we try to find the best way, right, to closing the gap, right? Try to find the way that to make the customer very happy or satisfied with that critical moment. And also, you might heard about the CRM, right? The customer relationship management, right, that we try to find using the information and then provide the better and and this might be the software, or it might be the approach or the method that contact with the customer and getting the information from them and try to use this to provide a better product and service to them, right? So the CRM. In this case, you can see in order to have the good CRM, we have the some list of the criteria that you need to do, right, in order to have the very good CRM or customer relationship management. Accessibility. So again, if you want to have the good CRM, you need to have the accessibility is very good. How easy the customer contact with you or provide information with you, right? And the commitment that you're going to have for the customer, right? So you need to have that. And the second one is about, as I mentioned from the previous two slides, we need to encourage all the person who contact with the customer. Then you need to understand that not everyone that can contact with the customer, right? So the right people to do the right job. So maybe have the select, right? You need to select the employees who is gonna contact with the customer, right? And then you're gonna have like the relevant customer contact requirements, right? In this case, also that to getting about the information from the customer. So we need to stay closely with the customer, and also we talk about this so many times as well. Effective complaints, right? So the better CRM is mean that you have the better way to have the complaint management, right? And you might find a partnership or alliance to help you. So sometimes you can see that you are not expert or you cannot do this by your own, right? You might get help, right, from your partnership and alliance to help the service or help to dealing with the customer for you, right? And the last one is very simple that we see a lot in everyday right now is about they have a technology, especially for the software. But the software of the CRM can help you, right, to have the better way to provide the service to the customer or getting or collect the information from the customer. But you need to use that technologies. Right? A lot of software that provide in the real world right now, right? Even though you just the software that you want to setting up your restaurant or your small business, like using one computer, just buy the software. Let's say this is a restaurant. That software can help you to setting up how many tables that you have. Okay, which table make which menu that you're gonna have, and then how prices, and then they can link that. Okay, when the customer order, you just press down and they're gonna collect everything. So this kind of very simple software as well that you can collect, right? That use it to collect the information from the customer. So in conclusion, this means that for the CRM, the technology or the software is very important again. And look back to the complaint management once again. Why we talk a lot about these things by complaint management, we can say that okay, this is like information that they said the airway company never hear from 96% of its 100 big customer, right? And of the customer who make a complaint, more than half will do future business if the complaint is resolved. So it means that the customer are willing, right, to do business with you again if you resolve that complaint, right? And for sure that the average customer who had a problem will tell 9 or 10 others. But now I believe it's not 9 or 10 because we are the era of the social media. So for me, maybe 100 or 1,000 for each person. If you had a fully friend on Facebook, 5,000. Right? So everything is spread out all this, right? And we need to believe that people love the bad news more than the good news. Right? Sometimes they just read about the headings, right? And not read in the detail, and then we just share, right? So you can have some words, getting words to the company. And again, this is what they said. Dissatisfied customer increasingly post their feeling on the web. Okay, so yes, we see a lot. So every day I see this from my friends, from my students, from my colleagues. Every day I see this. The last one. Right. For example, yesterday one of my friends he complains about the airlines, the Air Canada. He took 53 hours from Canada to Thailand. Some mistake, something like that. I don't know. I don't want to read in the detail, but it's just like the problem of, flight delays, doesn't have anyone to help or take care of the passenger. They just let the passenger stay in the airport, not need to communicate or something like that. When the passenger come to talk with them, they say just when they are eating or they have lunch or something like that. So my friend posts, he's the one that's executive management team of the Magnolia companies. I don't know, but we see a lot this one. People love to express that feeling, right? Drama, right? So if you have to read in the Pantit.com in Thailand, they also said the word "tok mama," right? Because we have the drama, people love to do that. So this is the why we need to do manage for the complaints, right? And yes, we need to respond in the first ones, and then you need to use the systematic process, right? And use the information to handle, right? So if you have the problems, sometimes it's not just only complaint. Sometimes it's bigger than complaint, and we call that crisis management, right? Sometimes you have the bigger problem. And you have the very unexpected about that, and that very big problem is testing your management team to how they can handle. We call it crisis management, right? So we don't want to happen, but it happened. But in order to fix it, you need the information, right? You need to analyze, right, and use everything like the systematics. Right? So that's why one of the criteria that I told you for the complaint management is that you need to collect the data, right? And as much as you can, right? And you keep it at the database to use other information to use in the future as well. At least you know that okay, in the past what is the mistake that happened. And okay, measuring the customer satisfaction. Yes. We need to do, right? Because we want to know about the thing that we need to improve and what do we actually do for the customer right now. Are they happy or not happy, right? So how can we do that? Okay, for sure that we might benchmark by comparing related to our competitors. We might think about try to find the area, right, that we can improve, right, based on the measuring about the customer satisfaction. And also the customer satisfaction measuring here, we can track the trend as well to determine the result of the improvement. Right? So as I mentioned that if we do it and we are not measuring it, we don't know about the result that customer happy or unhappy with, right? So we need to measure it, and after you measure the customer satisfaction, right, you can have the data against time, right, so that you can see what the trends, right, that what they think, right, and the effective customer satisfaction measurement system, right, result in a reliable information, right, about the customer ratings or specific product and service features, about the relationship between this rating and customer likely future market behavior. Yes, for sure, right? Because it's gonna show you about the future of market behavior for sure if you can have these measurements system. One thing that I want to show you is about you can use about the survey design, right, to measure about your customer satisfactions. This is like detail, just lovely detail about how can you design your survey form, identify the purpose, right, determine who should conduct the surveys, select the appropriate survey instruments, decide the questions, right. It's just a step of doing a survey. And we can see that typically we want to collect the information from the customer, right? And sometimes we are ignored to translate that information into the valuable information, such as the cost or the revenue implication that we're gonna have, right? And sometimes when you make a survey, right, you can do like the metrics to measure about the metric to analyze, right, between the performance and importance of that characteristic, right, that you measure from the customer. For example, if you look at the left-hand side, we have the importance. The importance exists as a, and for the horizontal is about the performance axis, right? Yes, we have the high-low importance and high-low performance, right? So if it's important to the customer, how well that you provide to them about the performance that you have on that characteristic. You can see that we prefer that the characteristic that very important to the customer and we have high performance on them. So strength, this is what we want. But if you analyze that, okay, you are perform well, right? You have the very high performance on that characteristic. But that characteristic is not the one that important to the customer. So you have the overkill. It means the overkill means you spend too much resources. You spend too much resources to have the high performance on the factor on the characteristic that is not important to the customer, right? And how about you have the low performance on low importance factor or low characteristic important to the customer. So who cares? So customer not realized. But on the other hand, if you have the low performance or the very important things of the customer that they consider for your product and service, so you're going to have their valuable. That is not the bad and it's not the good way to have. So you can analyze something like this, and so we try to getting very high performance on the very high impact to the customer. Okay, so this doesn't mean that the overkill is good. Maybe it's more costly because you spend a lot of resources that you have to the thing that's not important to the customer. So we prefer strength, right? So you can see that everything that we see right now, right, is called how can we getting the information from the customer, how can we using that customer information to do the next thing and to the improve, right? And we can say that it's not the easy job to do, right? We still have the difficulties, right, to do for the correct information, as well as the difficulty of measurement about the customer satisfaction as well. For the customer satisfaction measurement, it's not that easy, right? Because we need to decide that, okay, which scheme that we're going to use, right? The dimensions, sometimes we fail to identify the appropriate dimension. Sometimes we fail to weight the appropriate to the appropriate dimension. So just like you give the importance weight to the factor that actually not that have importance. But like comparisons with the competitors, right? So you just stand alone, not analyze external, but just look at your own only, so not analyze the competitors. So this is not a good way to do. Okay, and further to measure the proper potential and former customer, because you have no idea to not sure about that customer, the old one, right? But anyway, as I mentioned for beginning of today's actually detail for this chapter is just focusing to show you that how important of the customer, right? This is one important information that we're gonna use in the supply chains, right? Because if you cannot satisfy the customer, the linkage between each, organization is not that strength, right? And we have no case study at all, right? Because we finished the case study, but I have two small case studies that we're gonna use after the break. It's very easy. Nothing much, it's very simple case, but I want to hear the idea from you and some questions, right? So let's have a break, and when you come back, okay, we can go to that two case studies, the small one, and then followed by your presentation of the break video case study of inventory. Okay, so now have a break.
every night just satisfy ไม่ใช่ที่ไลฟ์